will I go live first? There we go. Now I'm live. Yes. One of the not issues, I should say, one of the things that I'm really sad about in regards to this new system of classes is the fact that I lost my regular homeroom. You guys know that when you're with your regular homeroom, you're with them like, whoa, that's me. Hold on. Whoa, that's me. Hold on. That's funny. Sorry, there was an echo. I like having the thing open over here so I can see the chat when I'm sitting down. So anyway, back to this. You're with your regular homeroom like every year, right? But and with teachers, we literally cycle through the homerooms where we get the homeroom as freshmen and then we stay with them for 4 years. And this would have been my senior year with that homeroom, and I missed out on that, and I'm very sad about that because it would have been my third group of students that I had since they were freshmen. So, say la vie. Anyway, so yep, I see you guys there in the chat. If you would, fantastic. If you would leave a comment, I can see the three of you so far right there. Hopefully, we'll have more people joining us as time goes on. Unfortunately, Allison will not be able to get any Skittles today. She's in the chat today. So, but you can't get Skittles. But you guys can get Skittles. Anyway, sure. What's my goal for today? Well, first and foremost, just as a reminder, you did have a major due, as I reminded you on Monday. You had a major due on weighted voting systems. So if you did not get that into me, make sure that you do. I'm just double checking it right here. Yep. I should put a sad face for not having Skittles. Sad. But yeah, if you did not get that major into me, get it into me. I have to get things submitted by Friday. Believe it or not, progress reports already. Like, are you kidding me? Progress reports? Come on, man. But yeah, it's just flying by. Anywho, here's my goal for today. I want to recap a couple things very briefly in regards to the last method we did at the end of class, which was the lone divider method. I just want to talk about that and one of the caveats that go along with that. Number two, I do want to introduce to you the slightly more complicated method called the lone chooser method, which that one we will do the Skittles with. And then from there are several other divider methods that we're going to eventually get to, but I'm going to stop for the time being after the next method, lone chooser, and I want to practice those things. So I do have some problems on a worksheet that I'm going to give to people here, and for those of you in the chat, it's going to be a PDF that I will eventually post. So, if you do not already have them out, I'm going to need those notebooks out and open. This is where I really do need theme music as I walk to my desk. But anyway, yes, those of you in the chat, I can still see the chat here at my desk. Fantastic. I can see all right there. Wonderful. Let's move this stuff around. Get some paper up in here. Flip this thing over. There we go. Yeah. And open that thing up. Click. There we go. Zooming out. So, just to recap what we had talked about in the previous class periods, we had talked about just this general idea of fair division. Yes, it would be nice if we were all nice to each other and just shared everything we had, but sometimes we value the items differently depending on what they are. So we talked about a couple of methods the other day in terms of fair division, where everybody would generally get what they assumed they were going to get. If you have a group of objects like Skittles and you are splitting it amongst two people, you would assume that you would get half or 50% of those items. And ultimately, you are not going to get 50% in terms of numerical Skittles, but you're going to get 50% or more in terms of the value that you put into those Skittles. I'm going to call this fair division continued. The two methods that we focused on, number one was the divider-chooser method, which is amongst two people, which is going to come back into play today. But we did the divider-chooser method. Now, with the divider-chooser method, one person's the divider, one person's the chooser. One person divides the booty into two equal shares in their opinion, and then the chooser picks one of them. The divider gets the other half. We also did the lone divider method, which I do have to clarify a couple things on today. Not that we did anything wrong last time, but there's a couple of caveats that I knew we weren't going to get to. But with the lone divider method, you could have more than two people. In some cases, you could have three people, in which one person is the divider and everyone else is the chooser. In which the divider would divide it into equal shares according to the number of people. And then everyone else would put in a bid for determining, well, who gets what. Everyone needs an equal share. That's the one I really wanted to get into. So this is lone divider example. And for this lone divider example, I'm going to need to create a little chart with three people, with Dale, Cindy, and Cher. Now, Dale, Cindy, and Cher are trying to split something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it is Skittles for all I care. Let me zoom in on this little table here. And ultimately, one of them is the divider and divides the booty into three shares, as you can see right there. Share one, share two, share three. Now, just like last time, I think it was Nicole and Allison last time. You guys gave me the percentages for how you valued each share. Yeah. Cool. But you didn't write them down, which is fine. Typically, you don't have to write them down. But for this example, they were written down for all three people. Now, all of these are measured in percentages. All of these are measured in percentages. Just keep that in mind. Dale is 33 1/3 across the board. Cindy, right in the middle, and this is for those in the chat because I know that glare is a beast to deal with. But Cindy in the middle is 20, 30, 50. And Cher on the bottom is 10, 20, 70. Now here's the scenario that we have. There are three shares. You can pretty much figure out, based on the table, who the divider was. I didn't tell you who the divider was, but there's obviously two main hints as to who the divider is. Do you know what the two main hints are? First of all, who was the divider? How do you know? Absolutely. Do you know the other little hint? No, that's what she said. Yeah, that Dale split at 33 and 1/3% all the way across. But how do you know Dale is the divider? I have a silly grin behind my mask. You can't see it. Let me say it a little bit differently. How do you know that Dale is the divider? No? It's just a joke. No, I'm being serious. Look. Divider, chooser, chooser. It's just silly. She said starts with a D. That's what she said in the chat. Anyway, but the first thing you said is absolutely correct. That's not always going to be the case where their names line up with the letters. That's not always the case. But the 33 and the third percent, yes, that is how you know that Dale is the divider. So after Dale divided the booty into equal shares, then Cindy and Cher put in their bids, just like Nicole and Allison did last time for the Skittles. They told me what they valued each pile at out of a percentage out of 100. And that's what Cindy and Cher did. Cindy went 20, 30, 50, and Cher went 10, 20, 70. Now keep in mind, a fair share amongst 3 people, a fair share amongst 3 people is where each person gets 33 and a third or more. That is a fair share. But we run into a huge roadblock with this table. What is the roadblock? Who gets what share? That could happen, just for those in the chat. She said that Cher would get third one, Cindy would get second one, and Dale would get the first one. Unfortunately, that's not fair to one person, and that's Cindy. Because if there are 3 people, then everybody should get 33 and a third or more. Everyone should get 33 and a third or more. Ugh. That's not fair to Cindy, unfortunately. Ugh. So what does one do? What does one do? Here's the thing. The main issue is that Cindy and Cher both like Share 3. They both want Share 3. They both value Share 3 very highly. They don't value Shares 1 and 2 that much. They don't. So we're going to have to do a little bit of a, not a cheat. It's not technically a cheat, because technically what I'm going to describe to you is a prescribed method for handling this situation. So first of all, a couple of pieces of information along the way. For 3 people, 33 and a third percent is a fair share. Mind you, for 3 people. Obviously, if there were 4 people, 2 people, it'd be different. So here's how we're going to handle this. Is there a share that you would say is valued the least by Cindy and Cher? Absolutely. Dale gets Share 1 since it's least valued by the choosers. I'll move that up a bit. Dale gets Share 1 since it is least valued by the choosers. That is a fair statement, because Dale, it doesn't matter which one Dale gets, Dale is ultimately going to get a fair share of 33 and a third. So he gets Share 1. Then Dale removes himself from the game. He removes himself from the game. He got his fair share. He's bowing out. And since he is bowing out, you still have shares 2 and 3. So a good method of handling this then would be to recombine shares 2 and 3. Cindy and Cher will redo divider chooser method. In a perfect world, everybody would value a different share. And that actually happened on Monday. When we split up the Skittles, Allison and Nicole, they valued different shares because of the flavor of Skittles, and they got what they wanted. And then, Patrick, you got what was left over because that was an equal share to you regardless. In this scenario, and I'm going to move my my papers back down so we can kind of see it right here. In this scenario, Dale is the divider, but unfortunately, Cindy and Cher both value more than anything share 3. It would be nice if we could just give share 2 to Cindy, but we can't because share 2 is not fair to Cindy. A fair share would be 33 1/3% or more. So we look at the least valued shares, share 1 in this case, give it to Dale, then he bows out. You recombine shares 2 and 3, and now Cindy and Cher will redo the divider-chooser method. And by doing that, you are giving them an opportunity to get ultimately 33 1/3 or more of the original pile. Because if you think about it, let's go back here real quick. If you think about the logic behind the situation, let me highlight something up here real quick. If you think about the logic of the situation, shares 2 and 3, Cindy values at 80%. Shares 2 and 3, Cher values at 90%. If they do divider-chooser with just those 2 shares, let's just say, I don't know, Cindy's the divider. Cindy will split up this pile where ultimately she would have 40 and 40% in each of them. And then Cher would just have to attribute, okay, well, of the 2 piles, I have 90% to work with, so I got to split these up, or not split these up, but I got to choose which one I value more. But ultimately, she's going to have something that's even more than 45%. See, we don't know what the final answer is actually going to be here. We just have the recommendation for the time being, mind you. We have the recommendation that Cindy and Cher just do divider-chooser with shares 2 and 3. It's really messed up, but the math does work out. Again, Cindy, let's just say Cindy's the divider. She'll split it up 40-40, and then Cher gets to attribute her percentages out of 90%. Versus if Cher is the divider, she'll split it up 45-45, and then Cindy would have to attribute 80% to the 2 piles. Ultimately, again, both of them are getting way more than they bargained for, way more than the 33 1/3% that they were originally entitled to. That's just one weird caveat to lone divider. With lone divider, you may run into a contradiction like this where you do have to deviate from the initial plan. So just to kind of recap one more time, because I got to write these cases out. This is the cases for lone divider. This is the cases for lone divider. Case 1. There's only, I believe, 2 cases. Yeah. In case 1, there is a way to assign fair shares to each chooser. We did that on Monday with Allison and Nicole with the Skittles. There was a way to assign fair shares to each chooser. And then the divider gets leftover. That's just case 1. That's what we did on Monday. There's a way to assign fair shares to each chooser, and then the divider gets the leftover. Then there's case 2, in which there is a quote-unquote standoff. The standoff is just basically Cindy and Cher both wanted share 3. And they're both looking at share 3 and they're like, I want share 3. No, I want share 3. What do? That's a standoff. They both put in their bids. They both valued it more than 50%. Nothing else will suffice in this moment. And in that case, the two choosers value one share more than anything. So first of all, you set aside shares not involved in standoff, like we did with Dale. Then you recombine shares and redivide by divider chooser. So this is just recapping what case 2 could involve. The fact that there is a standoff. Two choosers value one share more than anything. You set aside shares not involved in the standoff. This would be Dale's share. He would get share 1. You recombine the shares and redivide by divider chooser. Ultimately, everyone kind of gets what they want. I have one scenario. I'm going to leave this up here for a moment, but I have one scenario that I don't want to put it into our notes, but I do want to put it up here real quick. And I'll erase this just as quickly. Let's just say that this was Dale, Cindy, and Cher. Like I said, this isn't a part of our notes, but I just wanted to put this up here just for the sake of conversation. Let's say, here we go. Okay. Just for conversation's sake, let's say that this was the altered table. This was the altered table. This is different than the table we had before. In this scenario, yes, Dale would still get share 1. Dale would still get share 1. Get rid of Dale. He gets what he wants. Moving on. In this scenario, remember how last time you said that Cindy should get share 2? Exactly. Now she can get share 2 in this scenario. Oh, but Mr. Markey, Cindy values share 3 more. I know that she values share 3 more. It doesn't matter. What matters is that Cindy gets a fair share. And a fair share to Cindy is 33.33% or more. So in this particular scenario, yes, absolutely, you can give Cindy's share 2, and it is perfectly valid as long as it is more or equal to or more than a fair share. It's a weird scenario. So you can avoid the standoff here, thankfully. It's best if we can avoid the standoff. But if you have to go into a standoff, assign whatever shares you can, recombine the remaining shares, and then you redo the division. It's a weird thing. All right. Let's talk about Skittles. Let's talk about Skittles. I wanted to introduce to you one more dividing method called lone chooser. Now, thought I had paper towels in here. Oh, they have it. You guys all see that green piece of paper on the wall? They're literally going to install a paper towel dispenser in everybody's classroom. It's wonderful. I wish it were here now. Whatever. Hold on. I'll use these instead. Here we go. I'm going to do the thing with the Skittles again. But first, I just wanted to disinfect the area so that, as a just-in-case situation. There we go. Those are done there. Grab this. Here we go. Germs be gone. Hand sanitizer. Perfect. So in this scenario, I'm actually going to have to be one of the players. For this scenario, for lone chooser, there's one chooser and there are multiple dividers. And being that there has to be one chooser and multiple dividers, I do have to be a third person in this scenario. So there we go. Okay. Let's just say that we're going to do all the Skittles here. We're going to do this, all the Skittles I got left. It's all good. My hands are sanitized and dried off. So I'm just going to move these into the center of the thing right here. Cool. Now, here's where the scenario is going to get a little weird. Ultimately, this is lone chooser. Meaning there is going to be one chooser amongst the three of us, and the other two would be designated as dividers. It's going to be a little weird. It doesn't matter who the chooser is at the moment. But just for the sake of our little experiment, let me just randomly select who the designated chooser is going to be. So if I go rand int 1, 3, so you'll be 1, you'll be 2, I'll be 3. Chapow! It came up 3. I'm the chooser. Now, as the chooser in this method, in this lone chooser method, as the chooser, my first job is to walk away. My first job is actually to walk away. And I'm going to play a role later on. So, now that I've walked away from the situation, you guys are the dividers. You guys walk up to this pile. Not literally right now, I'll tell you when. But you guys would walk up to this pile, and the two of you, by yourselves, would perform a divider-chooser method on this pile. So, just for the sake of argument, let me see who would come up next in randint. Boom, 1. So you're 1. If you guys are going to be the divider-chooser, the original division method that I taught you guys, you're going to be the chooser, and you're going to be the divider. So now, Patrick, you come up here, sanitize, and I'll help you out. I think you'll want to put this into colors first, so while you sanitize, so you don't get any of that on here. But you have to take this giant pile of Skittles, and you have to split it into what you feel are 2 equal shares, 50-50. 50-50. But well, what about me? I'm a third person. Doesn't matter. We'll get to me later. I stepped aside. You're going to split them up 50-50 in your opinion. Flavors, don't care about anyone else's opinion. You only care about your own opinion. Obviously, there's an unequal amount of stuff all the way around. So, yeah, there are your piles right there. Split them into 2 50% piles. So what? I know, right? That's just what happened, I mean, there were two bags I got from Wawa. So while he's dividing it, let me explain what's going to happen next. Since you guys are doing the basic divider-chooser method, he's dividing and you get to choose. Ultimately, temporarily, he would have 50% of value because he split the piles. And you would have, I'm going to assume, more than 50%. Maybe you'd have like 60% or 70% value because you picked the pile that was more valuable to you. Okay? That's going to get really weird.
So then am I going to split it in half and then you pick?
No, you're going to split it in thirds. You're going to split it in thirds. I'll explain why. You'll see. Because think of it this way. If I just had like 100 Skittles and you guys split them up 50-50, if you take your 50 and then split it up 25-25 and I choose half, and then I go to him and he splits them up 25-25 and I choose half, all of a sudden I got 50 Skittles and you guys got 25 each. That's not fair. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, you're actually going to split them up into thirds, but we'll get there. So I'm going to move these piles down so the camera can see it. I'll keep them kind of separated in terms of colors for the sake of argument. I can't see all of them yet. Hold on. I probably could have just moved the camera. Whatever. Yeah, you can kind of, let me zoom out. Yeah, Skittles. Okay. So, as the divider, he divided them up into two piles that he felt were 50-50. So now, you don't have to come up at the moment. But I will have you guys come up eventually. Nicole, which pile would you ultimately choose as the one that you would value more? This one?
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, this one right here.
Yes.
Cool. So this is yours right here. Cool. Hold on. I'm just going to put these for the sake of argument. I'll zoom out a little bit more. I don't know if you guys can see those, but no, they can't. Okay. I'll put one Post-it here, and I'll put one Post-it here, and this will be for Nicole, and this will be for Patrick. There we go. Cool. So now, I just want to describe the scenario before everyone kind of starts moving around, eating Skittles and junk. This is lone chooser, and I am the lone chooser. We decided that at the beginning randomly. I am the lone chooser, yet I have had no hand in any of this so far. I've stepped aside. I've stepped back. But the remaining dividers, that's you guys, you did a mini divider chooser method, which is literally what you just did. You divided them and she chose. By the way, just for the sake of argument, what do you value each pile at? Percentage-wise, if you had to estimate. That's fine, perfectly fine. Because that's fair to you, 50%. That's fair to you, 60%. Sure, absolutely. Now, my job is still not here. I'm still stepping aside. But what you two have to do in a moment, and I'm going to have you do this kind of one at a time, you have to take your half, or your share, I should say, temporary share, and you have to split it into thirds. So you've already sanitized. You come up and actually, I'm going to have you come up after him. I'm going to try and keep people as distant as possible, whatever. But Patrick, you have to take your pile and you have to split it into what you feel are 3 equal shares. Which is weird, I know. 50% divided by 3. 50% divided by 3. While he's doing that, let me just do a quick calculation. 50% divided by 3 is roughly 16 1/3%. 16 1/3%. Now, check this out. This is really going to mess with your head a little bit. Remember how you said before, like, oh, you would split your pile in half? Check this out. He split the original pile 50-50. So he has 50% value. Now he's splitting it into thirds. If you divide this by 3, you get 16 2/3. You're going to do the same thing, but obviously yours is actually worth 60% in your opinion, right? So yours is worth 60% in your opinion. So when you split it up, you're actually splitting it up 20-20-20, right? I'm going to take 1 share from him, which I feel, in my opinion, out of those 3 shares is worth more. And I'm going to take 1 share from you, which in my opinion would be worth, 1/3 or more to me, ultimately leaving him with 2 shares of 16 2/3. If you multiply this by 2, or if you double it, I should say, times 2, you get 33 1/3. He's going to get a fair share. If I take one of your 20s and leave you with 40, you still get a fair share. And ultimately, I'm getting a fair share. It's a very convoluted method. It is a convoluted method, but this is literally how it works. Obviously, in real life, we wouldn't just use Skittles. Okay, hold on. All right, here, come up and sanitize. I'm going to move his piles over. So let's see. I'm going to move his piles over here so the camera can see them all. Everyone at home is like, I wish I had Skittles. So these are Patrick's 3 shares right there. Good. You split them up. And I'm sorry. I'm going to get around with the microphone. Sorry. Here we go. There. Cool. So, Patrick, what I was explaining to her while you were splitting them up was this. Originally, you split the shares 50-50. She chose one half, you chose the other. In your opinion, the share that you had was worth 50%, correct? Then you took your 50% value and you split it up into 3 shares because there's 3 people involved with this. Ultimately, if you split your 50% share in thirds, each of those shares is worth 16 2/3. Now, ultimately, she's doing the same thing, except in her opinion, it was worth 60%, the half that she took. Divided it by 3, it's 20%. I'm going to take 1 share from her as well. But by taking 1 share from you, I'm still leaving you with 2 shares valued at 33 1/3. So you're getting a fair share. I'm taking 1 share from Nicole. She's still getting 40% value, which is fair share with 3 people. And ultimately, I'm getting a fair share because I'm taking, and the math works out where ultimately I'm still getting more than 33 1/3% of what I value. So let's see what we got here. Looking at Patrick's shares, I'm going to take this top share because I really don't value orange and green apple, so I would try to minimize those. So I'm going to take this top share right here for me. That's me right there. And what am I going to take here? Goodness. See, like this one has more orange, but this one has more lemon. And this one has more green apple. And
The other one with more lemon has less orange.
Goodness. But this one has an extra grape. I'm taking this one. So I took that third. So ultimately, come get your Skittles. Because now, Patrick, you're still getting 33 1/3, and Nicole, you're still getting 40%. Skittles! Everyone at home be jealous. Because they're getting their Skittles. But ultimately, in the world of fairness, everyone is technically getting what they want. In a fair share, I should say. And a fair share would be everybody getting 33 1/3% value or more. That's lone chooser. It's a convoluted method. It is a very convoluted method. Or convoluted method, I should probably say. That's probably the phrasing I should use. But ultimately, it's just another way of dividing these things fairly. It is. It's wonderful. See, divider chooser is just so nice. Divider chooser with 2 people is just so clean. Sorry. First of all, Allison says that she's so sad. I'm assuming because of the Skittles. And then Sydney says, dang, it's okay. I'll get my Skittles at Walmart. Yes, but you'll have to pay for them. Anyway, whatever. Where was I? Anyway, divider chooser is just so, in my opinion, divider chooser is elegant. It's elegant. It's elegant in the sense of just like, divide to 50-50, and I choose the share that's worth more to me. Boom, done. Even lone divider, what we did on Monday, is still somewhat elegant in the sense that, well, it's like, yeah, there's one divider, and then everyone else puts in their bids, and then we basically just have to figure the math for the bids. Wonderful. Lone chooser just seems, in my opinion, overly complicated. It seems overly complicated. And it kind of is. But it does get the job done. So, let me see what we got here. This is lone chooser. This is lone chooser. There we go. And what I'm describing to you is a three-person method. The three-person method. There is one chooser, which was me, and the rest are dividers. Now, believe it or not, you can do this with 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, but the more people that you add to this, the way more complicated it becomes. The way more complicated it becomes. Lone divider is kind of nice. Lone divider, you could have like 6 people, one person be the divider, and the other 5 put in their bids. And then you could easily figure out what's a fair share for everybody. But with lone chooser, again, the more people that you add, the way more complicated it becomes. So I'm just going to stick with the 3-person method. First, the 2 dividers, which were Nicole and Patrick, perform divider chooser on the booty, which is what you guys did. Patrick split up the 2 piles 50-50 in his opinion. That should be perform. There we go. He split them up 50-50. And then Nicole put value to each pile, and you each had a temporary pile where you valued it at 50% and you valued it at 60%. Then they divide their share into 3 equal shares. I'm going to attempt to describe a 4-person method after I write this down. I would not have you write down the 4-person method. 3-person method's good enough. The chooser picks one sub-share from each divider. The chooser, which was me in that case, ended up picking one sub-share from each divider. And one extra little statement here. Each player has 2 sub-shares that equal 33.33% or more value. Each player has 2 sub-shares that equal 33.33% or more value. Again, this is a 3-person method. Oh man, with a 4-person method. Now again, I am not going to have you write down a 4-person method, but I just wanted to verbally explain what a 4-person method would involve. Obviously, Allison, if you were here today, I would not have involved myself in getting the Skittles because, again, it's a bit more complicated. With a 4-person method, there is one ultimate chooser. That chooser would set themselves aside for the majority of the game. The three remaining people would then have to do a mini lone chooser, where of the three remaining people, one would be that chooser. The other two the remaining two, I should say, would do a divider chooser, split them into three subshares, and then that chooser would select, and then everybody would have two subshares. Ultimately, once everybody has those two subshares, like you would have a pile, and I would have a pile. Now imagine that Allison is back, and we each have three piles that we split up using lone chooser. Because now there's a fourth person involved, we would have to split our piles into four equal shares. And then if Allison were here, she would take one share, one little subshare from each of us. So that we would be left with three subshares, and she would have three subshares. Correct. I mean, that's just nature. That's just nature. The more people, the less resources. But I'm just saying, though, the more people, the more complicated the method actually does end up becoming. You have to keep splitting into more and more subshares. And I mean, there are only a finite number of Skittles. I mean, here's the thing. And I've taught a class like this. I've taught this class before where there was like 15 people. I can't do a 15-person lone chooser. That's impossible. So I had to randomly select people to kind of participate in it. But again, 3 people is the most that I would kind of do in real life. But it is possible to do lone chooser with 4 and 5 and 6 people. It just gets way more complicated with the subshares. Okay. I'm going to call a small audible. And yeah, I'm going to call a small audible, and I'm going to go talk about cake. Originally, I wanted to assign you problems off of this worksheet. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign those problems as a homework instead of doing them right now for the sake of time, because there's only about 10 minutes, and I want to talk about cake. Let's talk about cake. I don't think anyone will object to me talking about cake. Well, unless you want cake, but I don't have cake. But yeah, this is the audible that I'm going to call with. I just got to get the right problem here since I'm calling the audible. I don't have it set up yet. Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about cake. Cake. Here is a cake. That's a terrible circle. That is a horrible circle, but let's just assume that that is a cake. And that is a cake that is flavored with 2 different flavors. That is a cake that is flavored 1/2 orange and the other half pineapple. I know, right? Now, this cake is worth $27. It is a $27 cake. This is the scenario that I'm kind of setting up for you with cake. Now, there are 3 people who they want cake. They do. There is David, there is Dinah, and there is Cher. Notice the names again. David, Dinah, and Cher. Now, each of them value a flavor in a slightly different way. David looks at that cake and he says, you know what? I value each half exactly the same. He values each half of that cake $13.50. David is the divider, the original divider. He's playing Patrick's role from our game from before, where you split it up 50-50. Dinah absolutely hates orange flavored anything. and puts 0 value in orange and, well, technically 100% value in pineapple. So I put the $27 there. Share, on the other hand, values orange at $18 and values pineapple at $9. That's like a 2/3, 1/3 relationship. I chose 2 flavors that I felt like, yeah, that's what, yeah, exactly. I chose, because it's like, if it's like chocolate and vanilla, it's like, well, I mean, I get, 50, I don't know, But it's like, if it's orange pineapple, you do have definitive opinions on that. So, in this particular example, David and Dinah are Patrick and Nicole. I'm Cher. I don't know how that worked out, because I'm the original chooser. I'm the lone chooser. Patrick, being David, he splits up the thing. So in this example, David cuts the cake. Dinah chooses a half. Now here's the thing. Yes, David values each half equally, but David decided to be difficult. In a perfect world, David would have split it half orange, half pineapple. But guess what? He didn't. Because he decided to be difficult. Because the thing is, he values each flavor equally. It doesn't matter to him which one he gets. Really doesn't matter to him. So this is how he decided to cut the cake. Now, again, originally, the solid line is separating orange and pineapple. Keep in mind, the solid line is representing orange and pineapple. But here's David's cut. There's David's cut right there. That's a dashed line. I know it's a little bit difficult to see, possibly in the chat. So you know what? I'm going to make this a little bit more embellished. Or you know what? Maybe I should just redraw it. I'm going to redraw it, but I'm going to embellish the dashed line. Here we go. There's that. Embellish that line. There we go. A little bit more embellished. Why would David do that? Because that's just who David is. Now, ultimately, if David and Dinah are Patrick and Nicole, you guys are each going to choose a half, right? Dinah gets to choose. Which half is she going to choose? The top left or the bottom right? Bottom right. She hates orange. So she would pick the half that has more pineapple. Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, I'm going to move this down here a little bit. There's one half right there. There's one half right there. David ends up with this. Dinah ends up with this. That's what she chose. There we go. That's the split that happens. Obviously, I'm still going to put these lines in here to kind of exemplify what's going on. Because, of course, Dinah wants more pineapple. Ultimately, they're each going to create a subshare, which I'm going to draw on this David-Dinah split right here. Yeah, I'm going to have to do the David-Dinah split right here. So that's the original cut, which I'm covering up now. And then David is ultimately going to do another cut here and here. And Dinah would do another cut here and here. How much time do I only have like a couple minutes. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I decided to call an audible, and I'm going to have to finish this problem next time because I am running a little short of time. I have a couple things that I want to explain. Before we finish up this David Dinah cutting up the cake situation. So with the 2 minutes that I have, I'm going to leave a note for myself to finish this David Dinah problem next time. Reminder, if you did not get that major done, you need to get that done. I am going to be assigning a few problems for homework. I will have a PDF available for you to have to look at those problems. It won't involve cakes with David and Dinah because obviously I want to do that with you guys together. So I will recap David and Dinah on Friday, and then we'll see where Cher comes in and what she's going to ultimately choose. But the problems that I am going to assign you are going to be on basic divider-chooser method, lone divider method, and lone chooser method. You're going to see some of those tables with percentages, and you're going to have to decide who is going to get which share based on certain information that's available to you. I'll be able to get that done. It's going to be phenomenal. Then on Friday, we'll finish up this cake example with David Dinah. We'll get some practice with some more advanced problems. And then we'll see with the time that we have left whether or not I do decide to introduce another method. I knew that I wanted to spend the majority of this class period on lone chooser just because I knew it was an overly complicated method. Also, I needed to get rid of them Skittles because they've been calling my name for a few days. And now I actually have Skittles, so that's good for me. But anyway, if you did not leave a comment in the chat, please make sure that you do so. That would be wonderful. The bell is going to ring in approximately 7 seconds, and we'll see you on Friday. Woo! That's a team break. I don't know. There's the bell.